Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Jagannatha Baladeva Jai Subhadra Jaya Sudarshana Jaya Radha Krishna Chandra Radha Krishna Chandra Radhe Jaya Gauranita 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 Jaya Gauranita Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Anantadev Prahlad Narasimha Jaya Anantadev Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमद अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर सदस्य श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैत गदाधार श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। मायापुर श्री नवद्वीप धाम की जय। मथुरा धाम की जय। द्वारका धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी महारानी की जय। समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। गौर भक्त प्रेम आनंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Jai Sri La Prabhupada. Nama Om. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna devotees, welcome for ISKCON Seshadripuram morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. So today we will be discussing third canto. Today we will be discussing third canto, 22nd chapter, verse number 36. Sayevam swayevam swantaram ninye yuganam eko saptatim vasudeva prasangena paribhuta gatitrayaha. Sayevam swantaram ninye yuganam eka saptatim vasudeva prasangena paribhuta gatitrayaha. Sayevam swantaram ninye yuganam eka saptatim vasudeva prasangena paribhuta gatitrayaha. Word by word meaning. Saha, he, Swayambhuva Manu. Evam, thus. Swa Antaram, his own period. Ninye, past. Yuganam, of the cycles of 4 ages. Eka Saptatim, 71. Vasudeva, with Vasudeva. Prasangena, by topics connected. Paribhuta, transcendented. Transcendent. Gati Trayaha, the 3 destinations. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. He passed his time, which lasted 71 cycles of the 4 ages. That is 71 into 43,20,000 or 4.3 million years. Always thinking of Vasudeva and always engaged in matters regarding Vasudeva. Thus, he transcended the 3 destinations. Purport. The 3 destinations are meant for persons who are under the control of the 3 modes of material nature. These destinations are sometimes described as the awakened, dreaming, and unconscious stages. In Bhagavad Gita, the 3 destinations are described as the destinations of persons in the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. It is stated in the Gita that those who are in the mode of goodness are promoted to better living conditions in higher planets, and those who are in the mode of passion remain within this material world on the earth or on heavenly planets, but those who are in the mode of ignorance are degraded to an animal life on planets where life is lower than human. But one who is Krishna conscious is above these 3 modes of material nature. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who engages in devotional service of the Lord automatically becomes transcendental to the 3 destinations of material nature and situated in the Brahma Bhuta or self-realized stage. Although Swayambhuva Manu, the ruler of this material world, appeared to be absorbed in material happiness, he was neither in the mode of goodness nor in the mode of passion or ignorance, but in the transcendental stage. Therefore, one who fully engages in devotional service is always liberated. Bilva Mangala Thakura, a great devotee of the Lord, states, if I have unflinching devotion to the lotus feet of Krishna, then Mother Liberation is always engaged in my service. The complete perfection of material enjoyment, religion, and economic development is at my command. People are after dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. Generally, they perform religious activities to achieve some material gain, and they engage in material activity for sense gratification. After being frustrated in material sense gratification, one wants to be liberated and becomes one with the absolute truth. These four principles form the transcendental path for the less intelligent. Those who are actually intelligent engage in Krishna consciousness, not caring for for these four principles of transcendental method. They at once elevate themselves to the transcendental platform which is above liberation. Liberation is not a very great achievement for a devotee, to say nothing of the results of ritualistic performance in religion, economic development, or the materialistic life of sense gratification. Devotees do not care for this. They are situated always on the transcendental platform of Brahma Bhuta stage of self-realization. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadanti Swa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tamsa Jivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vranda Vaneshwari Rishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namavom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin iti namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadara Sri Vasadi Gaurabhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama. So this is a very nice verse, very, as usual, Prabhupada's purport is very nectarian. And again, I keep saying this in almost every class. Actually, if you read Srila Prabhupada's books, you will note something, which is that, every verse, almost in every verse, Prabhupada actually describes the entire Krishna consciousness process. Like, the entire purpose why we are here, the purpose what we are supposed to achieve, and in between, what is it that we are supposed to be doing to get to that point. And this entire philosophy is Krishna consciousness is explained. And of course, the Bhagavatam is actually meant for that, right? Every verse that we are able to read should be able to bring us to the platform of fully understanding Krishna consciousness. So that's why, sometimes Prabhupada has mentioned also, right? You read even one paragraph of my books that, you will be perfecting your life. That means it's not simply reading, but trying to understand in depth, and more importantly, putting it into practice in our life. If you are able to do that also, then we will perfect our lives. And Prabhupada meant maybe, having these things in his mind that, because he's able to give, he has that ability to give the entire Krishna consciousness in few lines in, in individual verses, or, in different aspects of any book that he writes. So that is the greatness of Srila Prabhupada, and we are all very fortunate to have, be there at the time when Srila Prabhupada descended on this earth to save all the living beings. So we are ever grateful to Srila Prabhupada. So now in this verse is talking about the situation of Kardama Muni, when he was after he meets the Lord, and then, he marries, he seeks the boon to get a nice wife, and then he marries her, and he lives a nice life. So, and here this is talking about how he spent his life and how he perfected his life. That has been discussed here. Mm, Here it is mentioned, he passed his time, which lasted 71 cycles of 4 ages. So that means, what is this 71 cycles of 4 ages? And Prabhupada has given a number of 43,20,000 years. So how is this calculated? If you have to understand, this is very mind-boggling. We all know that life of Brahma's one day equals 1,000 cycles of these 4 yugas. That means Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. So this is one cycle. Like this, there are 1,000 cycles, which makes one day of Lord Brahma. Similarly, is one night of Lord Brahma. Like this. So this goes on, and Brahma lives for 1,000 years. Now, like this, Brahma lives for 100 years, like this, every day. Like that means one day, 7 weeks, 7 days makes 1 week, and then 31 days, or I don't know, 30 days, whether they have it like that, makes a month, and then a year, and then you have 100 years like this. This is how Lord Brahma lifetime is. Now, within this lifetime here, we are talking about every day is further divided into 14 manvantaras. That means there are 14 manus who actually are the person who will govern, that period of everything and anything under the creation of Lord Brahma. So that is a manvantara. That means the life of a manu. And that is being described here. The life of one manu is equivalent to 71 into 43, 20,000 years. Now, how do we calculate this? So when you say this one cycle has 4 yugas, now Kali Yuga has 4,32,000 years. So we are maybe 5,000 plus years into Kali Yuga right now. So maybe 4,27,000 years are left to this, for this Yuga to end. So if you take 4,32,000 years as the Kali Yuga period, now it is mentioned every Yuga before that is multiplied by one more time of Kali Yuga. So if you say 4,32,000 is Kali Yuga, then Treta Yuga or Dwapara Yuga was 4,32,000 into 2. And the Treta Yuga is 4,32,000 into 3. And Satya Yuga is 4,32,000 into 4. If you do this, you will get 43,20,000 years. So this is equivalent to one age of Manu. Equivalent to one Manu's life. So I said Brahma's day has 1,000 years. Now, if you divide 1,000 by these 14, right? There are 14 Manus who actually are the king of one section of that 1,000 yugas of 1,000 cycles. So if you divide this 1,000 by 14, it gets around 924. If you divide, for example, okay, if you put it the other way around, that means if you take 71 years, 71 into 14, if you put, it comes close to 1,000 years. So that means 14 Manus, each one of them gets to live for 71 cycles. That's the point. 71 cycles of Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali Yuga. 71 cycles. So like this, 71 cycles into 14 Manus, if you calculate, it becomes 900 and odd, which is basically around 1,000 cycles of these yugas. So that is how it is being said. So one day, 1,000 years, 1,000 cycles, which is further subdivided into 14, and roughly each one comes to 71 cycles. Therefore, one Manu's life is 71. And here Kardama Muni was blessed to live for literally the lifetime, equivalent to the lifetime of one Manu. So that has been explained. So such a huge life, right? Then how does he pass his time? Um, uh, sometimes we get bored of life, even if some half an hour or 1 hour, if you are not finding something interesting to do, you feel so bored. But here he has to pass like 43 lakh 20,000 years. And how did he spend this life, without getting bored, without getting depression, without getting suicidal tendencies, without getting frustrated. All of these things come in our Kali Yuga times, where people are fried left, right, and center, even for the 50, 60 years that we live. But think about the life of Manu, of Kardama Muni, and how did he actually experience life. It has been discussed in the previous verses also, how he engaged in that life. And here, this is a continuation of that. So, but as we get into that, we need to understand a few aspects here. Here it is mentioned that there are three destinations which are generally occupying the life of a human being on this material planet. So Prabhupada writes, these three destinations are sometimes described as the awakened, dreaming, and unconscious stages. So there are various definitions of this. One is this awakened, dreaming, and unconscious state. We all know this, where we are active, right? We are active. We are moving around. We are in an awakened state. Sometimes we are in a dreaming state. That means it can be seen both literally as well as in some indicative way. And so dreaming kind of situation where, even when you are sleeping or whatever, you are in a kind of a dream where you are actually literally experiencing something outside of the body, because the body is literally lying down in the bed, right? We can see that. But the mind actually wanders around elsewhere. That means the soul is able to get different experiences without being in the body. So that is the dreaming state. And then the last one is where actually you're unconscious. There is also a time where we really don't dream. We don't know what happened. When we wake up, it is whatever time it is. Anywhere between 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, devotees or other people, they wake up. But it's not like you are dreaming all the time. The other time you don't know what happened, right? You are just in a state where it's a area where we don't know what has happened to us. So the soul, maybe it was completely resting, whatever. And the body is not able to understand what happened during that period. So that is this unconscious period. While that is one aspect of it, there is the other one which is more important, which is the logic of how this entire process of the evolution of the soul in terms of why it comes here and all that happens. So that Prabhupada is actually writing us in Bhagavad Gita. The three destinations are described as the destination of the persons in the mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So that we will try to understand a bit. That is being described in the 14th chapter, the three modes of material nature. Now, if you see that somewhere in the 5th verse, Prabhupada is writing nicely. Sattvam, not Prabhupada, Krishna is saying, Sattvam rajastama iti gunaha prakriti sambhavaha nibatnati nibatnanti mahabaho dehe dehim avyayam. Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, O mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes. So this is the basic, what do you call, the blueprint of our existence in this material world. That means as soon as we become envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as soon as we decided to enjoy independently of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we are immediately transferred to this material world. That means when we want to live in a state of non-truth, that means the original position of every living entity is that he's the eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are independent, but that independent nature is not, that which is voluntary. Like, the independent nature is actually a state where you remain in your constitutional position, but you are independent to perform the duties in that constitutional position. But unfortunately, that constitutional position is to actually having a loving relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead in whatever our nature is in relation to the Lord. And how do you serve that Supreme Personality of Godhead? This is our natural constitutional position. That means we are part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, just a small part of that big personality of Godhead. And our nature, therefore, or our constitutional position, therefore, is to simply serve that whole, right? Just like this hand of mine is basically to help, is part of my body, and it actually serves this entire body, right? This is constitutional position, means this is natural for the hand to serve that whole body and act in relation to what the whole body is saying. So sometimes it may say, go and, like use this hand to say, prepare a nice asana for the devotee. So this hand is actually working for the other devotee, but it is doing what this body is telling it to do. That means, again, it is in the service of this body. It may be engaged in the service of something else, but the original command comes from this body. Like this, we are all actually part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And we are naturally, therefore, supposed to serve that whole, which is the Supreme Lord. And that is natural constitution. But the minute we say, no, I don't want that, but I want to be independent of this body. I want to think I am an independent unit and there is nothing connected to this body. If you want to think like that, that is an illusory world, right? Just like when a son says, now I am the father, in that family, that cannot be, right? You may wish to be like that, but that cannot be the truth. The same thing happens when we in a spiritual world. When you think I want to be the enjoyer, I want to be served, that is not a logical situation. That is not the actual tattva. Therefore, you are immediately transferred to a place where you can imagine yourself to be the the independent enjoyer. Just like they say, like, when the children want to think like that, I want to, when you have an original car and then the child says, I want to drive this car, practically he cannot drive this car. That is not a reality. He can't even, I'm talking about a young children, a very young child, where he can't even reach the, steering wheel. Then what does the father do? Okay, I will give you an imaginary world where you can be the driver of the car. So he gets him a toy car, which is not the real car in any sense of imagination, but it is an imagined thing. From the child point of view, he gives some facility like a toy car, which the child immediately thinks he is the driver of that car and he drives it. Whatever he does. So, but this is also real. That car is real, but only thing is it is not a real car the way it is perceived to be originally, right? Therefore, we have this world created for us, which is also real. Mayavadis think this is illusion. No, this is not illusion. This place where we are living is actually real. Only thing is it is impermanent. That means it is permanent in one sense that it is annihilated, but it is again created. So this goes on eternally. In that sense, it is permanent, but at the same time, it is impermanent because it gets annihilated. And this place is not a place where you are supposed to be there permanently. This is till you get reformed, till you get the correct idea, till our learning wrong illusions that we created in our head is gone. Then we go back to our home. Like, the child is not going to be playing with that same car till he is like 50-year-old, right?
That is only for a brief period of time. Then he is in a kind of a illusion. He wants to drive, he will be doing like that and driving that. But after a point in time, he comes to the reality and he is able to actually go use that. That we go back to that original home of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, where we are situated in our constitutional position, which means in a position of serving the Lord, being happy in association with that Supreme Personality of Godhead. But in the interim period, we are in this material world, we are kept in a kind of a illusory mode where we are thinking, okay, I am enjoyer, I am doing things. But in reality, what is happening is in this material world, the minute we come to this material world, we are immediately bound by these three gunas. That means, that is this word, this verse talking about. Material nature consists of three modes: goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the eternal living entity comes in contact with nature, oh mighty armed Arjuna, he becomes conditioned by these modes. So this is like, like how it is intertwined, like how you make a rope. You take different threads of small threads, and then you intertwine them, right? That's how it becomes a thick rope. So like this, these three gunas actually bind us up in such a way that we are completely conditioned. We think we are independent because this is illusion, right? You can never be independent. Therefore, you are put in an illusory state where you think you are independent, but in reality you are not. But these three gunas actually drive you in the path of you know uh, existence in this material world. And then it is also mentioned that further down, then they talk about these three gunas, how they are the characteristics of these three gunas has been described in Bhagavad Gita in 14th chapter. We will skip that portion and come to this particular verse which Prabhupada is quoting in this purport, where he is saying, urdhvam gachanti sattvastha madhye tishtanti rajasaha jahanya guna vrittista ado gachanti tamasaha. That means, what is the destination of the people who are situated in these three different modes? One thing we should understand is these three modes are not like exclusive. Like, for example, it's not like, a person will only be in tamoguna or only in rajoguna or only in sattva. It is actually a combination, but there will be one guna which will be very predominant in most people, and therefore we are generally categorized in that guna. But it is not like we are always in bad guna. For example, even the animals, they are supposed to be in this tamo guna. They do not have any understanding of who we are, or the purpose of life and all of that. But still, you will find nice behavior in some animals. Like, you will see animals should exhibit nice, like generally, dog, for example, in Vedic thing is not considered a great animal. It is supposed to be one of the lower animals, but in material world, we give a dog a lot of importance. But if you see in homes, if you see a dogs will do nice service to a lot of people, right? From bringing the newspaper from outside and giving it, or if you see the military and all of those people things, dogs are trained to perform some service to the whoever is the owner, like that. So sometimes they are considered good activities like that. And even you see so many animals. Cow, for example, very beautiful. There are so many nice instances of cow exhibiting wonderful characteristics. So that is very in Sattva Guna, very beautiful. Cows by and large 90% in that mode always. And you can see it exhibits very nice characters. So, but why I said this is because it is not that even though you are having predominantly one guna, but still the other gunas will also simultaneously exist. But the predominating guna takes the main, pulls us more in one direction. So the different characteristics associated with these gunas have been described in this purport. So
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, please wait. Please wait. Prabhuji has lost network. Connection चला गया है. आएंगे प्रभुजी आएंगे. एक मिनट.
Yeah, okay.
Hare Krishna devotees, forgive me. I had a power failure and the mobile was not connecting correctly. So, am I audible now?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
Thank you. So, so here the definition of the person, whatever guna he or she is actually having, what is the destination of the person has been described here, and that is the verse which Prabhupada is discussing in this purport, where this urdhvam gacchanti sattvastha madhye tishtanti rajasaha jaganya guna vrittistha adho gacchanti tamasaha. Those situated in the mode of goodness gradually go upwards towards the higher planets. Those in the mode of passion live on the earthly planets, and those who in the abominable mode of ignorance go down to the hellish world. So this is the characteristics that has been given, and Prabhupada is talking about that in this verse where he is saying these gunas primarily drive us in one particular direction. But then he is comparing here the the Kardama Muni, where he is saying here that he uses the word that because even though he was here in this material world, he was absorbed in the okay, so that is mentioned here. Even though the Kardama Muni was here in this material world, so-called seemed to be absorbed in material happiness. He was neither and actually here Prabhupada is referring to Swayambhuva Manu. He uses the word Swayambhuva Manu here, but it applies, I think, to Kardama Muni also, because the discussion is about Kardama Muni. He says, right, automatically becomes transcendental to the three modes of material nature and is situated in the Brahma Bhuta or self-realized platform. Although Swayambhuva Manu, the ruler of this material world, appeared to be absorbed in material happiness, he was neither in the mode of goodness nor in the mode of passion or ignorance, but in the transcendental stage. So that is the point. So sometimes when we are in this material world, the point what we are discussing here is, so when you come in contact with material nature, when you come to this material world, we already saw this verse that you are all bound by the ropes of these three modes of material nature. So, but in reality, there are possibilities or there are personalities who are here in this material world, but who are not bound by these three modes of material nature. That is something which we need to understand, and we should see how we can get to that platform. Because that is like a rule book, or if it's an automatic program, the minute we come here, we are bound by the modes of three modes of this material nature. Therefore, but there is a knack of not being caught up in this. And that has been said that, you can actually be in the stage of Brahma Bhuta. And if you look at what is this word Brahma Bhuta, Prabhupada explains very various, if you check Veda base, you will find various explanations given. But all of this various explanation actually talks about a stage where that soul who is caught up within this body is not in a material consciousness. He is in the consciousness of the spiritual world, conscious of the supreme personality of Godhead, and acting in relation to that spiritual personality, supreme personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So by that definition, a person can still be in this material world, but his consciousness, his mood will always be in the mood of serving that supreme personality of Godhead, in which case he is situated in the Brahma Bhuta platform. And if you are in the Brahma Bhuta platform, you have to understand that you have actually transcended these three modes of material nature. Therefore, you are here, but not here. So the simple example is like, if you are in a prison, let's say there is a person who's there, who's inside a cell of a prison house. Naturally, the thinking is, therefore, he is also bound by the rules and regulations of the prison, and he is actually a prisoner, right? If you are inside the prison room, inside that enclosure where you think. Now, this is by and large the truth. But now, if you suddenly see that personality who is actually there, if he happens to be the superintendent in that jail, then he is there, but he is not there. Means he is not there as a criminal who has been put in there to suffer the consequences of his criminal act, but he is there more to supervise the management of that prison house. And therefore, he may go into one of these enclosure cells or whatever and all that. But that doesn't mean he is bound by the rules and regulations of the prison house. Similarly, those devotees who are actually purely situated in spiritual consciousness, in devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are like the superintendents. So they have nothing to do with this material world. That means the police officer has got nothing to do with the jail in terms of the punishment or anything. But he's there to do a service for the government. Like that, these great personalities are coming over to this place to perform some service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and they are not being condemned by their karmic reactions to be in this material world. And therefore they come, but they are not bound by the laws of this material nature, and therefore they are above that. And one can come to that state if you simply take up a service in the government service, in this example as a police officer, then you are immediately relieved. Like this, here we are, Krishna is so merciful that he says, generally a criminal cannot immediately become a police officer, right? But there also, if you see, if their criminals' behavior is very nice, then they give some of these criminals some nice responsibilities to manage some small services within that. So to some extent, they are relieved of their burden of actually being a criminal within that, because he's already reformed, and therefore they will use him in some nice services. In this, I'm talking about in real world, in the prison houses, even though they are within that prison compound, but they are given much more liberty to do so many other things, like, which a normal, a hardened criminal will not be allowed to do. So like this, that is there even in material life. But in a spiritual life, Krishna says, whatever binding that you are having because of your karma, you are really bound by the three modes of this nature really hard. But still he says, Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam charanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksheshami ma suchaha. That means, how much ever you are bound by these three modes, but you simply surrender to me, I will immediately break these clutches and you are immediately free. Therefore, I have so much of negative karma sitting in my bank account, and therefore I have to be bound by these three modes so hard. But since I surrender completely to the Supreme Personality of God, the Lord immediately cuts through all of that karmic reactions and make you liberated. That's Krishna's message. So therefore, we have this opportunity, and this is exactly what Swayambhu Manu or Kardama Muni, they all did. Basically, they actually served the Supreme Personality of Godhead all the time, thinking of him, even though externally he is looking like he is living a material life, like, having a family life like that. But that is true of devotees also. You may be living in a family, you may be having wife, children, parents, whatnot, so many different social responsibilities. But as long as we are able to perform these duties in relation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they become transcendental. And in that process, even though apparently it is looking like we are doing material activities, for example, we may be looking like we are eating food like for gratification. But if you are eating prasadam, then that is actually transcendental. Okay, sometimes, most times, why sometimes, unless you are so, advanced that, you want to even curtail the little bit of a gratification when you take a prasadam. But generally, we enjoy the prasadam, right? We enjoy means we feel very happy when we have the prasadam. We like the taste and all that. But that is also transcendental, having prasadam. So a common man will be eating something which is not prasadam, and therefore that is materialistic. Whereas when you take prasadam, even though it looks like you are also doing the same eating activity, it is still transcendental. Like this, you can put everything, including to the point of having a relationship with the opposite sex. That means when it comes to a married life, when that relationship is for having children, to raise nice children in Krishna conscious way, then that becomes fully transcendental. That becomes fully spiritual. Krishna says, right, I am sex life which is not opposed to regulative principles. So that is the way we have to understand. And if you are able to do that, then you are able to go back to Godhead. Now, there is one thing mentioned. By and large, most people who are in this karmic reactions, who are in this material life, they see spiritual progress as having to do with the dharma, artha, kama, moksha. 99% of people generally think, what is the purpose of life? Sir, I have to attain dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So they think this is the progression. For them, dharma, we know, is basically following some ritualistic activities which are being prescribed in the scriptures or in the Vedas and all that. You perform these things. But when you do such dharma, you are supposed to get some artha. That means you are supposed to get some materialistic benefits. Like, you perform this yajna, then you will be relieved of the problems of your debts, for example. Or you will be able to marry a nice girl or boy, depending on whether you are a girl or a boy. Or you will be able to buy a house, these kind of things when we perform this yajna. This is dharma. But when you do that dharma, the ritualistic activities, that is expected to put you to a point of getting artha. That means it gives you some benefit, right? We do this. You do this for 41 days, you will get this phala. That means this benefit. People do this. You go to this Navagraha and you circumambulate X number of times for a period of 41 days, then you get this benefit. You go and give salt here and do this, then you get this. So this is all. So this dharma, when you do, you get artha. And when you get artha, what do? You enjoy. That is sense gratification, right? Once you get that nice house, you use it for all your partying purpose, you show off, you decorate it, you make so many nice, comfortable things inside, and you enjoy, children enjoy, then wife enjoys, everybody enjoys in that. So that is the kama. Then with all of these things, after a point in time where still what happens to life, I am enjoying all these things, but I still, these different things keep coming, the positive and negative. What do I do? At that stage, most of the times, 99% of people get into this Mayavadic thinking, therefore, no, I should actually renounce everything and come to the state of self-realization. And their definition of self-realization within quotes is merge with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is called liberation. But the Vaishnava philosophy does not understand it that way. The Vaishnava philosophy's point of liberation is actually called Brahma Bhuta, where you are not having any material relationship with this material world. Therefore, you live in a state of spiritual consciousness as a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So you may still be alive, but you may be liberated. There, liberated means death, and then merging into the Brahman. But here, liberation means you may still be having a body, but you are not caught up in these three modes of material nature, but you are actually situated as an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is being discussed, and devotees do not want to follow this dharma, artha, kama, moksha, that we straight away cut off and directly jump to the point of trying to get there in terms of serving the Lord with all whatever we do. How can we make that as a service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead? And gradually we become completely transcendented to the three modes of material nature. So I will end here. It is 9 o'clock. If there are any comments, any questions, welcome. So this is basically talking about the Swayambhuva Manu in this chapter of the marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahuti, and how Swayambhuva Manu actually spends his time. That, the life of one Manu, how is it being spent? That is the discussion here. Hare Krishna. Any comments, any questions? Welcome. Okay, so if there are no questions or comments, thank you for patiently hearing, and also for the disturbance that happened, tolerating the disturbance that happened in between. Any offenses to any of you in the course, please forgive me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Now we spoke about this people who are in mode of the Rajoguna and Tamoguna.
Yes.
Now they seem to be doing what they are doing, and they seem to be enjoying their life. It's not like, they are not realizing that what I am doing is wrong. They are continuing and they're enjoying continuously. So yes, when will that stop?
Okay.
For them to get to goodness.
Okay. So the point, as you said, is when you are following this process of the three gunas, the expectation is one rises to the point of Sattva Guna. That means one is in Tamoguna, predominantly in Tamoguna, predominantly in Rajoguna, but they are expected to slowly elevate themselves to the point of Sattva Guna, which is very favorable for taking to the point of spiritual realization. Even though Sattva Guna is also not the ultimate. One should come to the point of Shuddha Sattva. That means that is transcending the three modes. So Sattva Guna is also material, that we need to be understanding. So when you are following this process of Vedic ritualistic thing, over a period of Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyante, Krishna is saying, that means if you are normally following the beaten path, then by engaging in some small Vedic dharmic activity, our consciousness will be slowly elevated. And that will take Bahunam Janmanam. It will take many births. So we will be like, you carry your gunas, that right? How are we? Why am I, as a child is born, why is that child, one child you will see will be very hyper. Same time born, same age, everything maybe. One child will be very sattvic. How is it possible? That is because he is carrying the gunas from the previous life. So if you have already been very rajo in your previous life, but still did enough to take another human form, you will come back as another human child, but you will be driven more with the rajoguna. But I have the next X number of years to live in this body. And in the process, if I'm somehow engaged, that's why, we have all the samskaras. Parents are supposed to perform the samskaras. We engage the children in the Vedic, activities. Slowly, that child with Rajoguna will slowly progress. Bahunam Janma. What do you say? Sattva Guna. So this is the process. But in reality, this is, as I said, Bahunam Janmanam Ante, it will happen. But the prescription is everyone should be able to be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, irrespective of what is your guna. Right? If you are able to engage in Krishna consciousness, you are actually transcendenting the gunas. This is the point that we need to practically understand in Kali Yuga, that, to completely come to the point of Sattva Guna and then going back is practically difficult. But be it whatever I am, whatever guna I am having, if I am still engaging in some form and shape in Krishna's service, then this guna is automatically applied for the service of the Lord, and therefore it becomes transcendental. And then, you can actually go back to Godhead. You are automatically moved to the point of Sattva without our knowing. So does it help answer your question, Prabhu?
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. So
I have mentioned what is the beaten path which every living being generally takes, and what is the path that is a escalator, right? Which is given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and which is what is an intelligent person. Prabhupada mentions here, right? An intelligent person takes to this process. Like, if I can quickly get and finish off whatever I am doing, and if you are able to take that up, then that is good. But if he says, no, my textbook says only like this, I will do. I mean, someone had told me long back and I will follow that process it will take. Just like you go on a step, right? You can go to the 5th floor taking the steps, but you can also go to the 5th floor taking the elevator. So if you want to reach fast, then you will use the elevator. That is logical, comfortably, and at the same time fast, you will take the elevator. So here Prabhupada is mentioning the intelligent person does not follow the path of this one. What is it? Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. He directly jumps into devotional service, and you will reach there very fast.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Any other questions, or else we can wind up? Hare Krishna, dear devotees.
Okay, so there is no specific question, so we will wind up then. Thank you all very much again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam.